Hi everyone! So today I thought I'd do a video where I show you the different supplies and how to use dip pens. Since Inktober is coming up really soon, I thought it might be a nice time to share this if you are new to dip pens and you want to get some more information. They're pretty fun to use and they're actually really cheap in the long run compared to multi-liners because they'll last you a really long time. So I thought this might be helpful. So today I'm showing you all of the supplies that I use for my dip pens. I have this little jar. I've downgraded to a smaller one. If you guys remember my last Inktober video, to hold my in-use extra nibs. And I have this little Daiso sorting case. I'm not sure what to call it. Where I keep my potted inks here. This one I think is gone. It's probably dried up. Still have the Winsor Newton inks that I rarely use. This is the brown ink. Those are all in there. These are the nibs that I currently use. There's 4 different types of nibs that I really like to use. So this is the Saji nib, and these are by Tachikawa. This is the Tachikawa, let me see which one this is. I believe this is the school pen. This one is almost the same as the school pen, but it's slightly bigger, and this is the G pen. These, by the way, are packages that I bought forever ago, like 10 years ago. So I think the price has gone up since then. This used to be $2 and there was quite a few in here. I think there's probably either 2 or 3 in each package, and I've just used them up. And this is the Maru nib, which is the smallest nib. And I just recently got these. If you remember my last Inktober video where I showed my supplies, I had mentioned I need to buy more. I finally did. A couple months ago, I got a pack of 10 of them on Amazon, and I think they were like $15. I'm not sure. It's kind of expensive compared to last time I bought nibs, but you do get 10 of them, so that's good. And these are the pen holders I have. This is a very old speedball pen holder, which only fits a nib that I don't have anymore, so I don't really have any use for it anymore. This is the larger speedball nib, or pen holder, sorry. And I still really like this one. I like to put my Saji pen here. This is the largest one I use, the nib, which is in this package. And I don't know, I really like this pen holder still, even though I don't have the speedball set anymore. And this is the deleter, pretty basic pen holder. You get it when you buy the set that they have on Amazon of like deleter nibs and the pen holder. It's kind of nice. I still like it. This one is wooden though, so over time it can chip and have some issues. As long as you don't get ink on it and have to keep cleaning it, it'll be fine though. It'll last. And this one's probably my favorite, even though it doesn't have a nib in it right now, just because it has a lid. So like if you want to leave it like this and you don't want to accidentally gouge yourself, you can put the lid on, so it's not a problem. See, the lid comes off and you put the nibs in up here. And you can just leave it in if you want, although I don't usually leave mine in for a long time, but yeah. So this is a Tachikawa one. I really like it. It has a rubber grip too, so it's comfortable to hold. But these aren't bad either. I like these. The other inks I have, oh, I should talk about the cleanup. So you can get a pen cleaner, which is for the metal nibs. There's quite a few different brands. I currently have the Dr. P.H. Martin's one, and it works really well. But honestly, with the type of ink that I use at least, you can also use rubbing alcohol, which is cheap and easy to get. This is the one I have because I live in Singapore and this is the only thing I can find. But of course, your rubbing alcohol might be slightly different. It's also called isopropyl alcohol. Don't make fun of me, okay? I've never said that word out loud. But yeah, that's what that is. These are the inks that I currently use. I would not suggest white ink unless you're going to use it up really quickly and really often. I've let this sit for about 2 years and I'm pretty sure it's a solid mass inside the bottle. One thing to keep in mind with inks is they can dry up inside the bottle. So yeah, be careful of that. Especially I've noticed white inks in general do that. And this was not cheap, so unless you're going to use it really often, I wouldn't suggest it. I would probably suggest going for like white gouache or gel pen. It's easier. This is the Dr. Peach Martins. This one did not dry up on me, thankfully. So far I've had good luck with black inks. This one I also haven't used for like 2 years, but I noticed it's still good on the inside, so that's great. And this one also seems to be holding up too. It's like settles a bit at the bottom, but it seems like it's still liquidy. But I'm not a big fan of the brown ink. I prefer the blacks so far. So a tip that I have is when you get a bottle like this where it has like a dropper on top and you want to use it for dip pens, you're going to have to repot it into something else. And I would highly suggest going for a glass bottle like this. This is a glass bottle with a metal cap. I put a little jewel on it so I know that which one it is. This means that it's the black one, and this one I have is black mixed with white or water. I don't know why I said white. And this one I have is black mixed with water. And I would actually slightly suggest adding a little bit of water in your ink because it just makes it flow so much easier on the nib and also in the bottle. Like a lot of the times there'll be ink that gets dried up, but in this bottle there's not much of that because there's a bit of water added, so it doesn't settle as much. But if you look at the bottle where it just has like straight up black ink with no water added, it does get dried up on the sides a lot more. So that can be annoying. But of course the difference is when you add the water, it makes it easier to clean the nib even while you're working, and it's like doesn't stick onto the bottle as much, but it might not be as crisp when you lay a line down on the paper, and it's not going to dry as dark, of course. So that's something to keep in mind, but I do find it really useful, especially if you're going to put ink into one of these, a Pentel Aquash pen. I put a bit of water in there with it so it just flows easier and it doesn't get all dried up inside the nib, or the pen. The pen's the word. Sorry, I don't know words, okay? I'm always tripping over my words. You guys know that. So, yeah, those are the inks. Like I said, it's good to repot them if they have this, because that's just, otherwise you don't know where you're going to put this while you're using the dip pen. And you also want like a wide area to dip into. Like this type of bottle is designed for this, so it has a nice wide open and it's easy to access, but these are designed for various uses, so they're not exactly designed for dip pens. So that's why this is useful. And also another tip is while you're actually using the dip pen, in between dips, it's a good idea to just place the lid on top just to keep any air from getting in and drying everything out while you're using the dip pen. So yes, those are a few little tips. This is not going to be the most organized video, but hopefully it'll still be helpful for you guys. So now I'm going to show you what the marks these nibs will make, and then we'll go into like cleaning and different tips on actual use. So when it comes to actual use, the pen holder you choose really doesn't matter except for comfort level. And the other thing you have to consider is what nibs fit which pen holder. So these pen holders have two circles on the inside, which is the ones that I use. They all look like that. So the smaller circle is for the smaller nibs, like the Maru nib, and the larger circle is for the larger nibs, like the Saji nib. So I'll show you. These are the smallest nibs. They are this Maru nibs, and you can see that they have a very small circle below. So you would put that in the most inner circle area and fit that in. And you just have to push it in. You want to press here when you're pushing it in so you don't like hurt yourself, because the tips are really sharp. And just pop it out like that. For the other nibs, this is the G Pen. This one only fits on the outer circle, so you want to pop it into the outer circle. And this is probably stuff that is like a no-brainer. You can figure it out if you're playing around, but I thought I'd show you guys just in case you're like curious and you're not sure. And sometimes there's a bit of resistance for different pen holders, but you just want to get it in there as secure as you can, but not so secure that you can't pop it back out. So yeah, that would go in the outer circle. If you try to put it in the inner circle, it just won't fit. Some of them are a little like, they can go either way. Like I believe this school pen, oh no, okay, the school pen only fits on the outer circle. So it's really only the Borrow that fits on the inner circle. And the Saji, of course, will only fit on the outer circle. And for some reason, wow, this one's really stuck in. For some reason, I just really like to leave it in this big one. This bigger speedball one, by the way, it doesn't have an inner circle, so it's only gonna fit the bigger ones. And I just kind of really like this one for the Saji pen in general, just because like it feels comfortable for the bigger nibs somehow, because it's a bigger pen holder. I don't know, I like this one. You can actually get this speedball pen holder on Amazon individually. I think it was like only a few dollars, or you can get it in like the speedball pen set, the pen set. But just a word of advice, the speedball nibs are completely different from the nibs I'm showing here. These are all Japanese nibs. So if you want these type of nibs, it'd probably be better to go with like the Deleter starter kit for the dip pens, because it has this pen holder, and I think it has all of these nibs as well. That's if you want a starter kit. Otherwise, you'd have to buy the nibs individually and maybe buy the pen holders individually. Like this pen holder, the Tachikawa, is something that I bought individually. I think it was like $8 US on Amazon. I'm not sure. But yeah, so it's really up to you what you want to get if you don't already have the supplies. But they all work fine. They're all great. Like this one's totally fine. It has the 2 circles, so you can do either size. Pretty much all the Japanese nibs are going to have both circles. It's only the speedball pen holder that's going to be slightly different, because it was sorry, it's hard to get that out. It was designed to be for the speedball nibs, so it does fit the larger pen holders, or the pens, the nibs, the larger nibs, but not the smaller ones. Like it'll fit the school and the G pen as well. So just to check. Okay, no, it doesn't. Oh yeah, it does. Never mind. It just barely fits the school pen. So out of these nibs, my favorite is actually the Saji nib, because it's nice and big, it's easy to control. It's generally really nice one, but it does give a bigger line. So that's something to keep in mind if you like really tiny lines. The Maro pen is the tiniest lines. It's nice. But it is slightly harder to control because it is really tiny, and it does go blunt, where the other ones I feel like they don't really. I feel like the only one I ever need to replace is the Maro nib. The other ones, unless I break the nib somehow, I feel like they're still good for a really long time. My third favorite would be the school nib, which is the smaller of the two. They're really, really similar, the school nib and the G nib, like super similar, but the school nib is slightly smaller, and I actually prefer using the school nib over the Maro these days, because there's a bit more ease and control when I'm using it. And the G pen and the Maro pen I don't use as often, if I'm being honest. It's really the Saji and the school pen for me right now. But they're all good, they're all useful, they all have different sizes, so I'll just show you that now. And while I show you, I'll talk some tips about the actual use of the pen. So I'm going to be using my slightly watered down gray ink, so you can see what that's like. So when you dip the pen, you want to put the pen in, tip down, but you don't want to put it too deep. You probably want to just put the ink up to about here and not any deeper. If you get the ink in all the way up here, you're just going to cause a lot of problems where you have to clean out these circles, these grooves inside the pen, and things will get stuck, and then it'll be really hard to take the nib in and out. So I would highly suggest dipping a bit, but not too much, like that. That's perfect. You don't need too much. Just want to make sure that's in frame. Hopefully all of that was in frame while I was explaining to you. So this is as far as you really want to dip. That's fine. And when I take the nib back out, I always kind of tap it to try to make sure to get any excess out, in case it causes trouble for me when I actually use the pen, because one of the biggest problems with this is if it drops ink while you're using it like a blob of ink. That's terrible. So this is the Saji nib. You want to hold it like this. Now it's going to be harder when you first use these nibs because it doesn't want to go in all directions. And if you want a thicker line, you just press down. It's best to keep it like parallel like this when you use it. And when you go around curves, just try to be careful and like let your pressure be light. Just like not press too hard when you're going around like curvy things like this. But it's totally doable. It just takes some time. I don't know what I'm spelling. I'm just making lines. And then we're out of ink, so I would dip it back in. Occasionally you're gonna wanna wipe it so that nothing gets stuck, but for the ink where you add a little bit of water, I find you have to wipe it a lot less. Like I almost never have to wipe off the ink or the nib to keep it clean because it just doesn't get stuck too much. So like pulling down like that, when you wanna do it this way, you might wanna reposition like this. You kind of just want to keep it pointed up at all times so it flows easier. And I would highly suggest, if you're new to this, starting with like the bigger Saji pen, because like I said, it does flow easier. I'm just making a mess. I don't know what to write. And just be careful with different papers. It might get, some of the paper fibers might get stuck up in this area. So you definitely want to have a tissue and just like occasionally wipe and make sure that nothing is stuck in this track here. And don't press too hard that you bend it back. Then that's a problem. But I did that when I was younger. So, you know, trial and error, it's not going to be the end of the world. You just have to learn what the limits are for each nib. So I'll show it before I switch to the next nib. I'll quickly show how the full black ink looks compared to the watered down one. And again, that's tapping to make sure. Cover this in between. You see the skip there? That can happen. You just have to lighten your pressure a bit. So like the full black is gonna be a lot more crisp, but it also is a lot more goopy, I guess, on the nib. So you're gonna have to clean the nib more. I guess I'm out of ink already. It's funny. So I guess it doesn't flow as well when it's like full black without any water. So you might run out faster. And you definitely have to wipe in between pretty much every dip when you have like just the full concentrated ink. Because you see it already left some stuff here. It already dried up a bit. So that's the difference. I mean, just a little bit of water I feel like helps it flow so much easier, and it's a lot less troublesome in between. Like you can go a lot faster, I feel. That's just me though. Just to be clear, that's just me. So the next pen we'll show is the next size down, which is the G pen. I'll be going back to the gray ink since that's what I started with. And again, just the tip like this is how far you want to dip it. You don't want to dip it too dark or too deep. I even only fill the ink in these bottles to about here because that's all I need. I can just top it up if there's not enough on my pen when I dip. I just give it a tap. And this is the G pen. This one is slightly harder to maneuver than the Saji, but it's still pretty easy because it is a bigger nib. But again, you probably want to keep your orientation like this every time. Just keep moving your hand around. It's slightly more rigid than using a multi-liner. But if you just keep practicing, you'll be able to get curves and stuff over time. I did, when I first started dip pens, I did actually practice a lot. Like just doing this kind of thing, just doing hatching, lines, just so you get a feel for it before you attempt an illustration. And it may not be for everyone, because some people get really annoyed about having to redip. But like I said, there's benefits to using dip pen, because in the long run it's cheaper. You know, a little thing of ink like this is probably only going to cost you around $10, and it probably will last you 1 to 2 years depending how often you use it. The pen cleaner is like less than $10 too, or like rubbing alcohol you might already have at your house. The nibs, they're a bit more expensive than they used to be. Like I said, I bought 10 of these, and I think it was like somewhere between like $12 to $20. I can't remember exactly how much on Amazon. But they will last me probably a few years. So like I've had these packages of nibs since the year 2000 and I still haven't used them all. So I think it's very economical, and the nib itself doesn't break as easy as a multiliner. So there's positives and negatives, but it does take time to dry, and you do have to keep dipping, and you have to get used to the way you hold the pen and use it on the paper. You might smear it by accident or accidentally flick ink. So there's definitely downsides, but I think there's really good sides. I also try to keep my pinky down like this to keep myself more space between the paper and the pen, especially if I'm trying to go over an area that maybe is wet and I'm being bad and inking over it anyway. And you want to ink from one side to the other so that you're not going over an area that is wet. So those are the various tips I have. So this is the G pen. It's nice. A lot of people actually prefer this over other pens. I think it's good. It's just not my top favorite. This one is the Saji Pen. Again, this is how deep you kind of want to dip it. And then tap it on the way out. Be careful not to splash. And this one is, right, did I say Saji? This is school pen. So this is just thinner, and again, the thinner they get, the harder it is to use around curves. But it's pretty much the same as the G pen. The feel of the nib, the curve of the nib, it's just smaller. And with curves, it's definitely like lighter pressure will help you go around the curves easier. I hope this is helpful. If it is, definitely let me know. Leave a like below, leave a comment. I'm gonna let this one be dirty so I can show you how to clean them later. And this one is the Your Nib. Actually, I will show you a new Your Nib because I know those are blunt, which is what I had mentioned in my last Inktober video. So this is a brand new Your Nib. These do, for some reason, get a bit more blunt over time, more so than the others I found. And this might be harder to see how much ink is on there because it's a darker nib. But again, like, you just kind of want to fill up to this hole. You don't want to go any deeper. You don't want to get ink stuck up in this area. See, this one is very hard to maneuver. I would consider the Maro pen to be difficult mode when it comes to dip pens. I don't even have the skills to use it around curves very easily. It's very flexible. I kind of like that scratchy sound you get with dip pens. And it has the nicest, thinnest line. So like if you're doing illustrations or you want to do hair lines, this would be what you would pick up. But I would actually suggest school pen over Maro pen, especially for a beginner, because it's slightly easier to maneuver and the Saji pen's the easiest. G pen might also be good. Like I would actually work bigger and then move down as you get used to the bigger nibs. That's how I got used to them and I got back into dip pens. I always go that way. So yeah, that's the 4 type of nibs that I currently use. There are other types of nibs out there, but these are the most popular ones. So to clean your nib, it's pretty simple. You could just take the tissue you've been using already and you just like, what I just do is I just soak a bit of rubbing alcohol into the tissue like this. And then I take my nib and I just like wipe it into the rubbing alcohol or the pen cleaner. It also works for the pen cleaner. But that's pretty much it. I mean, if you have let the nib sit for a really long time with the ink on it, you might have to soak them, or you might just have to like let it sit on a tissue maybe with the solution, but it's not that hard to clean. And of course the thicker the ink that you're using, the longer it might take to dissolve. But that's pretty much it. If you do a quick cleanup. You could even just like maybe take a lid and put some of the pen cleaner in it and then just drop the nib in there. And then afterwards I might rinse it with water just in case and then dry it. Always keep them dry though. Don't let them sit inside something for too long because like I guess they could rust, but I've been using these things for a really long time and I've never had a nib rust on me. I've also never had any flow issues for the Tachikawa or the deleter nibs. I've seen some videos where people show like having to burn off something when they first get their nibs so that the ink will flow, but I've never had that problem with these. I just use them right away and they're fine. Or maybe you could clean it with rubbing alcohol first and that would get whatever it is off there. You don't actually have to use fire or anything. So if that's something that has been making you feel like you don't want to try, then yeah, just to let you know, I've never had that problem. I just use them as is. And when I'm done and they're clean and they're dry, I'll just pop them into this jar so that they are safe in here. They're not going to accidentally like be something that I stick myself with because they are pretty sharp and they're not going to like get wet or anything like that. You could also maybe put them in a baggie because they do stay in these baggies. I mean, they've been in here for like 10 years and they're still fine. Or you could put them in a drawer somewhere nice, like wherever you want to keep them that's maybe a bit out of the way. I wouldn't really suggest leaving in the nib holders for too long unless everything's clean and dry. And especially since like this is like just waiting. I've actually stabbed myself on this. Unless you have this one's really convenient for that. You can just leave it in there, put the lid on, and then put it in your like pen holder case or whatever it is, you know. So yeah, that is everything I could think of that would be helpful for dip pens. Definitely practice, give it time to dry. And if you ever have a like inking issue that you have to fix, then check out the video that I'm going to link above. I show you how I fixed an inking issue I had last year at Inktober. That was terrible, but it worked out. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. I hope you have fun during this Inktober or any Inktober that you are gearing up for while watching this video, or even in general. Dip pens are great any time of year. So hopefully you liked this video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, all that good stuff. I will see you next time. Bye.